Hello, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Reese and I talk about books and reading and writing. Today's video is a little chat on how to get out of a reading slump. Because sometimes we fall off of reading and that's totally okay. And yeah, this video is split into two parts. The first has some book recommendations and the second has some strategies, thoughts, other ideas about what you can do. I recently had a mini drop-off of my reading over the holidays, and at first it felt weird, and I didn't like it, but then I realized, you know what? It is really busy over this time of year, and reading comes in seasons. Sometimes you read a lot, and sometimes you read less or nothing at all, and that's totally fine. I am by no means an expert, I am just a person who reads, but hopefully there's something that can help somebody else out there in this video, and also me in the future when I get into a reading lull. To begin, let's start with the books. Specifically, the types of books or like category of book that I noticed looking back on some past periods where I wasn't reading at all. Yeah, what was the type of book that got me out of that slump? I'm gonna share those types of books and then a specific book, the actual book that helped me get back into reading. Beginning with what I am calling the surefire book. This is basically a guaranteed 5-star read, and my criteria for that is specific. There are two parts to this. Number one, a book that you keep hearing about or reading about or seeing people that you know and trust, YouTubers, bloggers, whoever, your friends, a book people are talking about, and in a good way. I mean, that should be obvious. A book that people are talking about positively. But that alone is not necessarily enough. The second criteria for this is what this book is about, or the genre, or something about it you know is a 100% like, you will love it. Basically, this is just not a time to experiment, at least for me, and so maybe it'll help other people too. And you might be thinking, well, duh, obviously, but the thing is, when I'm in a reading slump, it usually means I've forgotten the magic of reading a good book that feels like it was written specifically for me. And that's what this category of book is all about. A well-loved, recommended, rated, all of those things book that is so specific. It's almost like you can't believe you haven't read this yet. And for me, this book was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. I had heard many a YouTuber talk about how amazing Moshfegh is, and specifically talk about how great this book is. And of course, on top of that, this book is described as tender and darkly funny, which is always a good sign for me. It has an unlikable main character, also a good sign that I will like it. And finally, it is set in New York City, which I used to live there, and so I just felt like, okay, I'm gonna understand this setting. There's a little to no chance that I'm gonna dislike this book. The next category or type of book is what I am calling the shorty. This is a book of short stories, or just a book that is under 150 pages, even 200 pages. Something that's just on the shorter side. Something about a shorter length, a short book, a short story, there's no time to waste, really. Like, you immediately get drawn into the story. And especially if you can apply everything from the first type of book to this. Yeah, and if you can read it in one sitting or read one story from the book in one sitting, it's just enough, I think, to remind you of the magic of reading. For me, this was Pastoralia by George Saunders. It is a collection of short stories that are weird, dark, funny, basically a satire of American life and culture, and so well written, so great. Why I picked this up, in addition to it being short stories, the first story is told from the perspective of a man who is in an amusement park as acting as a caveman in a diorama. And that just sounded so great to me. It's basically a critique of corporate work culture, which is something that I'm finding myself drawn to a lot. But yeah, I read that. I think that's the first story in here. And then each day, each night, I looked forward to reading the next story that was in there. And at the end of it, I wanted to read more, so I hopped into my next book. Yeah, I was in a slump. Each story in this book was a little contained reminder of why I love reading, and reading this collection brought me out of that space. And the final type of book, category of book, is the epic. This is completely the opposite of what we were just talking about. It is the long book, the one that pulls you in, the usually has like an ensemble group of characters. Basically, it feels maybe counterintuitive to like commit to a longer book when you haven't been reading a lot. But really, this is finding a book that will completely suck you in, and yeah, you just get lost in it. The epic long book that got me out of a slump was Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This spans about 100 years of one family's story. There's, like I said, a cast of characters that you're following, a Korean family that immigrates to Japan, and I believe it starts in the 1910, somewhere around there, 19 teens. This book is about women in Korean society, discrimination, power, and it was an opportunity for me to learn about a specific time, place, and culture that I didn't know a ton of details about. And I'm thinking back to my reading experience, and I was just so swept away by this story. And yeah, it wasn't even a question if I was gonna watch TV or read this book. I had to keep reading it. So yeah, this is about finding a long book, a long but compelling read, and one that can take you on a journey of sorts. Hopefully, it will help get you excited about reading again, because that is what a book like this did for me. Now we are in part 2 of this video, which is other tips, tricks, and things to help you get out of that slump. These are things I've done in the past, or I hope to implement in the future to help me when I'm in that reading lull. First thought is focus on time. This could look like dedicating an afternoon, an evening, a series of evenings, or maybe committing to a 24-hour reading marathon. Basically, it's just taking it one step of like, I want to read again, and saying, actually, I'm gonna block off the time or hold the time to actually do that. This helps me when I feel like I'm spending more time scrolling. I'm basically setting like a reading date for myself. And yeah, rallying around a Sunday afternoon where you're planning it, it just makes it more special, and I'm more likely to sit down and read when I plan ahead and make it something special. I kind of want to do a 24-hour readathon this year just because I read somewhere that your brain processes time more slowly when you are having new experiences, trying new things, doing new things. And I would like for time to slow down a little bit. So I hope that I can try this this year. TBD. I'll probably talk about it here. But back to this video. This thought is basically paying attention to time spent reading instead of the goal that you have of wanting to read more. It's more about process or habits over outcomes, which I think is a thought from James Clear in maybe Atomic Habits. Next thought is probably a little divisive, but it is to give yourself an assignment. Basically, it's give yourself a way to get excited about reading again that is not tied to a specific book. So this could look like picking a topic that you're interested in and you want to read more about, or more books that are set in a specific country or city, or a specific genre that you are curious about, or even reading all of one author's works. And I'm one of those people who was really like into school assignments, so this is something that would motivate me to start reading if I haven't been reading for a while. So I recognize that this structure might not work for everybody, but maybe if you focus on like something that is already exciting to you, it won't feel like an assignment or like a thing you have to do. It's a thing that you are excited to get to do. That would be the goal. I haven't used this necessarily to get myself out of a slump yet, but I'm thinking it might help. For me personally, I'm interested in reading more climate fiction, and so my plan is to create a list of books that fall into this category and then start taking them off more often, maybe one a month, we'll see. And I'll definitely share my thoughts on this once I've read more, and if you have a book that falls into that genre category, let me know, because I'm very interested in learning more about it. And the last thing that I want to add to this video is the reminder that being a reader is not determined by how many books you read. Those are separate things, and yeah, if you like reading, you are a reader. You don't have to hit a number of books per year. Yeah, I think there can be a lot of emphasis placed on like how much people read, and I don't like thinking about it that way. I think more about like the experience of reading and trying to get back to that experience versus like how to read more, if that makes sense. Thankfully, the spaces that I tend to be in on BookTube and like the people that I follow and, you know, don't think that way. And so like I don't experience that as often anymore, but I feel like, yeah, there can sometimes be like a stigma around the amount people read and is it good enough and all of that stuff. So anyways, we can just throw that out of the window. And so that about wraps up this video. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching. I hope there was something helpful in here and something for the future to get you excited about reading again. I will see you in the next video. Bye.